So if you're counting on the physical evidence before you cheer up, then you have a sort of gap, don't you? Physical friends will say, well, Abraham, if I could be over there, I would feel so much better. And we say, we know, but you've got to feel better before you can get over there. And they say, well, can't I just be the one exception in all of the universe? Can't you just make it better? Can't you change the circumstance so that I can feel better? And we say, it's an inside job. You've got to find a way to shift your vibration. And then whatever it is you've been asking for can flow easily into your experience. So now, here's the most important part of all of this, and really a sort of leading edge place for many of you. For most of you are not aware of this, and as you hear it, and think about it and play with it over the next few days, so many things are going to fall into place for you. So many things that you have been holding yourself apart from for no good reason will begin to flow into your experience. In fact, an avalanche of stuff you've been wanting is lined up right outside your door. And when you open the door a crack, all kinds of things will begin flowing in. We were visiting with a woman recently who was experiencing, even in the moment that we were talking with her, very much pain in her hips. She has arthritis. And she said the pain was nearly constant. It varied in degree, but it was severe. And we said to her, you know, there are two journeys that you are living concurrently at all times. There's the journey that is already manifested that you're observing and talking about. In other words, there's the stuff that is manifested that you call reality. We call it reality. But you call it reality. It's more important to you than it is to us because we know how temporary it is. We know how changeable it is. We know that it's only the platform from which you launch more rockets of desire. And we know that your now reality is the time in which you adjust your vibration in order to open the door more than a crack to allow more of what you're wanting in. So we don't want to give reality as much attention as you do. We want to call it reality. Temporary reality. So we said to this woman, you have two journeys that are running concurrently. You've got the reality or your awareness of what has manifested. But then you have this emotional reality. You have this vibrational reality. You have an opportunity on your emotional journey to adjust your vibration. You can't do much about the reality that is manifested. Some of you say, Abraham, I've jumped out of an airplane. I'm at 40,000 feet. I have no parachute. What should I do? And we say, hold on, it will be over soon. Because sometimes if you wait until the very last minute to begin adjusting your vibration, there is a momentum factor involved that you sort of have to live out. But we're wanting to talk to you pre-manifestation. We're wanting to talk to you about what you're doing with your vibration now. And so we want to call your attention to this emotional journey that you're always upon. So as we were talking to our friend with arthritic hips in great pain, we said, you could be a person who has arthritis in your hips and pain who is fearful, or you could be a woman who has arthritis in her hips and pain and hopeful. And the vibrational difference between being fearful and hopeful is a huge vibrational difference. Now, as any moment in time is not, it's not a big enough vibrational difference to give you instant manifestation. Nothing is. And friends, trust us on this. You're glad that you don't have instant manifestation. This buffer of time is really your friend. It's your opportunity to observe and to ponder and to visualize and to remember. It's your opportunity to take an emotional journey that might be different from what you're actually observing. Do you know that the majority of the vibration that the majority of people offer is offered in response to what they are observing? When you have the ability to imagine, you have the ability to remember, you have so many options other than looking at what is. And this is the part that we really want you to hear today. Even if you're standing in the midst of a reality, you have the ability to look at it in a way that makes you feel fear or to look at it in a way that makes you feel hope. And so that's why we are referring to the emotional journey. It's the emotional journey up the emotional meter. And when you understand that the way you feel is the key to this, now you're on your way. Thinking your way through it is harder because do you know how magnetic thoughts are? So if something's been happening and you've been observing it and you've been talking about it, you've activated that vibration within you. We want you to make friends with your vibration wherever it is. In other words, we want you to understand the vibrational nature of whatever it is that you've been thinking about and understand that it is illogical, it cannot be done, it defies the laws of physics for you to be offering a vibration of despair and all of a sudden jump over to a vibration of appreciation. Those vibrational frequencies are too far apart. The frequencies have to match up. And so when you've been focusing upon something that is causing you to feel the emotion that is evidence of the vibration of despair or fear, you don't have access to those thoughts that feel like appreciation, not in that moment. Joseph Campbell gave you some wonderful words. He said, follow your bliss. And we have never heard words spoken that are more accurate to what we know about your guidance system and who you are and what you deserve and what you're worthy of. And if you could do it, would lead you to the fulfillment of your reason for being here and for a joyful life every day, all day. Following your bliss, that is very good advice. But when you are in despair, you cannot get a whiff of bliss because the vibrational frequencies are too far apart. And when someone suggests that you are wrong not to be reaching and finding bliss or appreciation or love when you are in your place of strong negative emotion, we want you to understand that it's not practical to make that kind of quantum leap jump. But it is practical for you to move from despair to anger. If you decide that nothing is more important than the way you feel, all of this gets very easy because trying to process the thoughts that you are thinking is a bit cumbersome. Because when you are thinking about what you're thinking, you've activated what you're thinking. And when you've activated what you're thinking, then other thoughts like that which you are thinking come into your mind. And now you've got a more activated thought of that which you were thinking. And then you say, I'm not going to think this thought that I'm thinking because I'm thinking that this thought that I'm thinking is not the best thought that I could be thinking. But you're still thinking that thought that you're thinking. Where if you are reaching for a feeling rather than for a thought, it's easier for you to move up the emotional scale. And we want you to realize and watch and feel as we move through this day that the feeling of moving up the emotional scale, or the feeling of moving from resistance into allowing, or the feeling of shifting your vibration from one that is disallowing your connection to who you are to one that is fully allowing your connection to who you are. This process of moving up the emotional scale is a step-by-step process. It's something that you have to feel your way to. We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. Nothing is off limits here.
Thank you. I want to express my gratitude to you for the benefit you've been to me in the year that I've been listening to you. It's an amazing change has happened in my life. From feeling finally, after all this time, worthy of all the good things. I've always been blessed with wonderful health and a wonderful family and wife and kids and relative abundance, certainly in the 95th percentile of the planet. And yet there's something in me that didn't think I could have it all, and now
Well, you couldn't be too far out of whack or you wouldn't be living the life you are.
Yeah.
In other words, you were closer to alignment than you wanted to accept because you've been trained, as a lot of people have, to believe that you should struggle harder for the good that comes to you.
Yes.
And when it comes relatively easily, you feel guilty about that. And there are a whole host of people that are out there not very well connected that work very hard at making you feel guilty. In other words, they want you to feel guilty. They want you to suffer more than you do so that they feel better about the suffering that they're doing. They don't do it consciously. Well, some of them do. But on the whole, they're well-meaning. So how have you come about giving it up?
I think I just got sick and tired of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
We think so too.
Yeah.
We think the contrast of it just got feeling bad enough, and you realize that you're supposed to feel good, and feeling good was something that was natural to you, so it was an easy transition to make. And we want to let you know, of course, you're already beginning to feel it because the momentum is swelling.
Yes.
But all of that well-being that you've been living is small in comparison with what is now coming, as you've brought yourself into alignment with now knowing that it's all right to let the good times roll.
Yes. Thank you. So I guess my hesitancy in coming up was, it's also wonderful. I just want some minor tweaking. It's like I set some really big business goals in the beginning of the year, and that basically 4 times anything I'd ever experienced in any other year. And about 2 months ago, I was nowhere near it, and then I finally allowed myself to feel worthy, and then immediately things started flowing in, and this huge deal is working out in my life, and it's going so smoothly. And then there's little bumps in the road, and like the client calls in and says, I changed my mind, the deal's off, and my secretary takes the message, and she of course feels bad for me because she believes them, and I say, well, they just don't understand. I call them back up, everything's fine. It's like there was some joy in seeing that other people thinking the reality wasn't going to happen, but it's really happening. And so now there's been like these 3 or 4 peaks. And
So
it's
that's
like, am I creating that myself?
Yes, and you are doing it because there is a part of you that you want your hands in the clay, and you want to feel responsible for the creation, and you want to, in essence, earn
Yes.
the good that's coming. And so you're not quite ready to just let it happen.
Yeah.
That's the tweaking that you're wanting to do. You're wanting to justify it just a little bit by suffering at least some.
Yeah.
And in that, clarity is coming forth. In other words, when something looks like it's not quite going right, clarity relative to rockets of desires happen. And the future experience gets better as a result of that focused attention that is then required. You see, this is ideal creating. When you get to this place where you've set goals that thrill you, but they're not so big that they feel out of reach. And it's still interesting enough that you want to focus upon it. But when something goes wrong, it doesn't knock the wind out of you because you have enough confidence that things are going well. This is the ideal state of creating.
Yes.
And you have honed it into that position. We say you've got your hands on the steering wheel and your foot on the accelerator, and you get to decide where you go and how fast you go. And if it gets going too fast, you can slow down, and if it's not fast enough, you can speed up. In other words, this is what creating is. And you have come to consciously acknowledge that it is the focusing that makes it happen. So much so that when your secretary gets the information about what seems to be the action reality, you didn't let it divert you from the emotional journey that you'd already decided to take. And so since you didn't let it divert you, the action journey couldn't be diverted either.
Right, right.
Yes.
Thank you. So just keep feeling good, eh? Have I missed anything?
Well, we can hear some questions within you.
Thank you.
How good can it get? And we say, we have not seen the lid on that.
Okay.
How much fun can I have? How much money can I make? How many people can I influence for the better? In other words, we don't see any ending to all of this. But your work is constant, and it is the same work. It is managing that distance between the desire and the current in the moment vibration. And so you can't be off the wall excited all the time. But think about your life vacillating between things that feel like, oh, that's fascinating, or oh, that's exciting, or ooh, doesn't this feel good, or ooh, don't you just love this, or to, ooh, isn't that surprising, to, ooh, isn't that interesting. In other words, there's lots of variety in emotions that will keep you perfectly happy up there in that stratosphere of positive creating. And we can feel that you're at the place, and many of you are, where your expectation of well-being is so well in place that you just can't experience anything other than that.
Yeah.
And so just relax and continue to savor and enjoy. And we want to amplify the word savor because you're on the brink of so much expansion that the savoring will be an important element in keeping you in balance.